that you created a moon thing that went to the sky.
No, what I worked on was the lunar module, which was part of the Apollo program, which was started in the early 60s by President John F. Kennedy to put a man on the moon by the end of the decade, primarily because Russia had put up the Sputnik satellite, and they were the first ones to put a man in space, Valery Gagarin, and it was a reaction to Russia doing so well in space.
How long did it take?
Well, we got the contract, the Apollo program started about '61. Rockwell got the command and service module. Marshall Space Flight Center built the giant boosters, and Grumman got the contract in October 1962. Program started about, say, 60, 61. We landed a man on the moon in '69. So it was about a nine-year program. Now we put seven, yes. What is your next question, sir? I should say, my grandson, Joshua.
Was it fun when you did it?
Oh yes, it was really a very good time. I was at the right place at the right time. I was young. I was in the early 30s. The company grew, the program grew, and I had a lot of people. You know, we designed the system, the power generating system, and initially we had fuel cells on the lunar module, like the command and service module, oxygen and hydrogen combining to make electricity and water. And that's what they had on the command service module. We had an open cycle. But later on in the program, when the requirements changed, we went to a silver zinc battery. So the LEM was powered by batteries. And the LEM landed on the moon, and the descent stage stayed on the moon. That had batteries. And then the ascent stage, was two parts, had batteries also. At that time, I went on to another program. I went on to advanced systems, advanced derivatives of the lunar module.
Why did you retire?
Why did I retire? Well, I was in my 60s. The company was, the Grumman company was losing some of its contracts. They lost an F-14. I was on that also. They lost a new version of the F-14. They lost an A6F program. The company was, you know, it had a good run. It started in 1930. This was 60-some years later. It was starting to slow down. It was beginning to contract, and they were in trouble. And Northrop purchased. Right. At the time I retired, I was 61, and it was time to go.
Yeah. How did you know to choose this in college? Like in college,
Well,
why did you choose?
why did I choose? Well, it was really a series. I went to college for engineering, mechanical engineering, and then when I was graduating, there were the only companies that were really hiring were the aircraft companies. And I always wanted to be an aircraft. When I was a young boy, I made airplanes, and I always wanted to be an aerospace engineer. The college I went to, CCNY, had only mechanical engineering, electrical, chemical. I was a mechanical engineer. But then my first job was with Goodyear Aerospace in Akron, Ohio. And I worked on, initially it was supposed to be a fighter version, a Goodyear version of the F-4 fighter, which faded because we didn't need it. And then I worked on airships, dirigibles. And that was my first job with the Goodyear company. always wanted to do aerospace work, aircraft work.
And I have one more question about.
Just one more? That
Just
would be
for
nice.
this one.
Oh, just for this one. Yes, Josh?
Did you, like, when you were there, like, when you were working for them, how, like, what were you doing for it?
Well, when I
Like
first
what?
started, I was a designer, a design engineer. And I think my first job was designing a door for the airship. The airship would stay up a long time, so to service the engine, it was a Pratt & Whitney engine, I remember. To get, when the airship was flying, they needed something to come out of the nacelle that covers the engine. It actually came down, and then from the cabin, the door came down, so I wanted the door from the cabin and this door coming out of the engine nacelle to meet, and a technician could come out of the cabin, walk over to the engine, and service the engine. That was my first job.
Was that your favorite part of the job?
No, that was
What
my
was it?
first job.
What was your favorite part of the job?
Of the job at Goodyear?
Yeah.
It was hard to say. I mean, Goodyear was a good company. I enjoyed working there. I had just been married, and it was a job.
What was your favorite job?
Of all the jobs I've had, probably working at Pratt & Whitney. Well, Grumman, of course, was the most, right? Working on aluminum module. I had three major jobs in my life, three major companies. Actually, four. I worked for Goodyear, then I worked for Pratt & Whitney Aircraft in Hartford, Connecticut. You want to discuss that?
No, we can get to that
Later? Okay. But Goodyear was the first job. I worked there for 2 years. Then we decided to come back east.
Another, like, it's not a question to the, like, NASA, was, like, not NASA, like, to the moon.
Yes, that
I
was
mean,
later, yes.
I have a question about what did you do, like, at home? How did you live?
How did I live?
Yeah.
Well, in Akron, Ohio, we lived in an apartment. My wife and I, we had just been married in June, and I'd been out June 52. We lived in an apartment. We were newlyweds. We met a lot of young people, and we used to travel to Detroit a lot. Rosalie, my wife, your grandmother, had relatives in Detroit, Michigan, which was about 200 miles away. And it was really, and they were a very nice family there. So on weekends, we would leave Friday night, drive to Detroit, which is about 200 miles, and then we would stay with her family. We did this a lot of weekends. They treated us very nice. We were relatives, we were newly married, and they kind of took us under their wing.
What year was it when you had your first daughter?
When I had my first what?
Daughter?
Oh, my first daughter. My first daughter was Michelle Eileen. She was born in 1955. 1955. August 3, 1955.
And then when was your other
The
daughter?
daughter, she was born in Hartford, Connecticut, when I was working for Pratt & Whitney. The second daughter was Elizabeth Ann, who was born October 28, 1958. And then my third daughter,
My mom.
your mother, Robin Joy, was born June 5, 1964, while I was working for Grumman on the space program.
I heard that my mother has lots of allergies. How come? Like, when did you guys know?
Well, when she was born, a baby. I don't think right away, but, you know, when she was probably a couple of months old, we were very good with our children as far as taking them, we felt, always to the best children's doctors. And I guess we noticed she couldn't drink certain milk, maybe milk was bothering her or something. And we brought it to Dr. Quackenbush. He was the man. Right? Dr. Quackenbush, very fine doctor, in Bayshore, New York. And he diagnosed Robin.
If you could choose a favorite daughter, what would it be?
Of the 3 daughters,
Yeah.
no, they're all my favorite. I can't pick one. No, they're all my favorite.
Mm. How did you like treat them? Like, were they responsible?
Oh,
Were they?
oh, they were good kids. And I believe, well, Robin was probably the best of them. The most, she was probably the best student and listened the best. Maybe we learned from the other 2 how to treat. But Robin was the easiest one. The other girls were good, but in our day, you know, they were good. They were good kids. They were good kids. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.